Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how loud the world gets sometimes? How people feel the need to fill every moment with noise, with words, with opinions that don't always add up to anything of value? Well, today I'm here to tell you there's a power in silence, and not just any silence, but the kind that confuses them, the kind that leaves people guessing, wondering, questioning their every move, every word. In a world where everyone feels the pressure to constantly speak, share opinions, and express themselves at every moment, the power of silence often goes unnoticed. Silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's a tool, a deliberate choice that can convey more than words ever could. When used purposefully, silence can be a sign of strength, confidence, and self-assurance. It speaks volumes without uttering a single word. In related to this line of thought, here is something more powerful than whispering words. Hearts are full of music that must be spoken. Imagine a moment where everyone around you is caught up in their own noise, yet you choose not to respond. You don't fill the space with empty words or forced reactions. Instead, you remain still, and in that stillness, you communicate far more than if you were speaking. The world, so accustomed to noise, doesn't know how to react. And that's exactly the point. Silence has the ability to disrupt, to stop others in their tracks, and make them reconsider their assumptions. It challenges the expectation that every thought or feeling must be verbalized. It forces others to confront their own thoughts, often creating a sense of discomfort. Because silence can be unsettling for those who rely on constant conversation to feel secure. The person who can move the most among us is bigger than the person who can move the least. But in choosing silence, you're not shrinking or retreating, you're asserting control. You're saying, I don't need to speak to be heard. Silence becomes your statement, your power, your unspoken strength. In a world that prizes words, sometimes saying nothing at all says everything. Silence has a unique way of creating mystery around you. In a world where people are constantly talking, sharing their thoughts, and revealing their intentions, staying silent can make others feel uncertain about who you are or what you're thinking. It leaves them to fill in the blanks, to make assumptions, and try to decode your behavior. This uncertainty gives you the power to control how you're perceived. When you don't speak, people start to wonder why. They begin to second guess themselves, interpreting your silence in all sorts of ways. Are you deep in thought? Are you judging them? Are you above the conversation or just not interested? The questions they ask themselves can sometimes be far more telling than anything you could have said. And in their search for answers, they create a story, one that is often built around their own perceptions rather than reality. This mystery is incredibly powerful because it shifts the focus away from you having to explain yourself. Instead of revealing all of your thoughts, you give nothing away and allow others to try to understand your position. The more they try to figure you out, the more you remain just out of reach. And in this space, you hold the cards. You remain in control of the narrative, not because you said anything, but because the uncertainty you created forces others to respond to you rather than the other way around. Silence has a remarkable ability to help you control the narrative in any situation. In a world that constantly demands explanations, reactions, and statements, choosing to remain silent can be one of the most powerful ways to shape the outcome of an interaction. Instead of being dragged into someone else's script or responding to their expectations, silence allows you to dictate the pace and direction of the conversation. By not speaking, you avoid the need to justify yourself or defend your actions. People are left to interpret your silence, and in doing so, they often project their own ideas, assumptions, and judgments onto you. This leaves you in a position of power because you don't have to conform to anyone else's narrative. You simply exist in your own space, unaffected by the pressures to fit in or explain yourself. This is your powerful self. Recognize it. Silence also allows you to listen, really listen to the world around you. Without the distractions of constant chatter, you gain deeper insights into the thoughts and feelings of others. People are more likely to reveal their true selves when they aren't being interrupted by your words, and this gives you an advantage in understanding their intentions or motives. You are able to observe their reactions, body language, and tone, which gives you a clearer picture of the situation at hand. By remaining silent, you control the flow of energy in the room, maintaining the upper hand without ever having to say a word. It's a subtle yet powerful way to shape the dynamics and make sure your presence is felt without saying anything at all. Strategic communication is all about knowing when to speak and, just as importantly, when to remain silent. Silence isn't the absence of communication. Rather, it's a deliberate choice to withhold words in order to create impact. Sometimes the most powerful message you can send isn't through a well-crafted speech or quick retort, but through the simple act of staying silent. This approach forces others to look beyond words and focus on the deeper meaning behind your silence. When you're selective about when you choose to speak, you ensure that your words hold more weight and significance. People start to pay attention when you do choose to speak, because they've come to expect that your words will be carefully considered and impactful. It's about creating anticipation, making others hang on to your every word when you finally do decide to break the silence. Silence also gives you time to think and reflect, allowing you to craft your message in a way that is more thoughtful and purposeful. You have the space to carefully consider the situation, understand the perspectives at play, and decide how best to respond. This pause not only prevents impulsive reactions, but also enhances the quality of your communication. In moments of conflict, for instance, silence can prevent escalation. By not engaging immediately, you give yourself the room to respond with clarity, and often your composed approach can de-escalate a situation. Silence can be a strategic choice that ultimately leads to better outcomes and more thoughtful interactions. Silence has a remarkable ability to shift power dynamics in any situation. In conversations or conflicts, people often feel the need to fill the silence with words, trying to dominate or control the flow. But when you choose silence, it disorients the other person and causes them to react. They become uncertain about where you stand or what you're thinking, and that uncertainty puts you in a position of control. In an argument, for example, remaining silent can cause the other person to feel the pressure to fill the space with more words, often revealing more than they intended. As they speak, they may become more defensive, anxious, or flustered, giving you an opportunity to observe their reactions and better understand their position. Silence allows you to maintain composure, while the other person may expose their vulnerabilities, weaknesses, or inconsistencies in their argument. It's not about manipulating others, but rather about not allowing their words to sway or pressure you into reacting impulsively. When you're silent, you don't fall into the trap of defending yourself or your position unnecessarily. You maintain your inner peace and perspective, while the other person may become increasingly unsettled. This subtle power shift can be extremely effective in negotiations, discussions, or even personal relationships. People who are comfortable in their silence often create an aura of confidence and calm that others find hard to resist. The silence itself becomes a statement of strength, signaling that you are unshaken and in control, while others may struggle to keep up. Choosing silence as a form of communication reflects a deep sense of self-confidence. It shows that you don't need external validation or constant words to assert your presence. When you remain silent, you're demonstrating that your thoughts, opinions, and emotions are solid enough to stand on their own, without needing to be voiced for validation. This confidence comes from knowing that your value isn't tied to how much you speak, but to the depth of your character and your ability to command attention without saying a word. In a world where people often feel compelled to share every thought, speak on every topic, and make their opinions known at every turn, choosing to remain silent is an act of self-assurance. You are saying that you don't need to seek attention through constant dialogue. Your presence, your actions, and the quality of your silence speak for themselves. This confidence not only changes how others perceive you, but it can also shift how you see yourself. To intentionally expand on your own thoughts and feelings is to set you apart. This laugh is able to bring peace of mind. It allows you to cultivate an inner strength, knowing that you don't need to rely on words to assert your worth. Silence, in this sense, becomes a form of quiet power. It tells others that you are comfortable in your own space and that you don't need to fill the air with noise to feel important or relevant. This level of self-assurance can be deeply inspiring, showing others that they too can be confident without always feeling the need to explain themselves.